Hello and welcome once again to Welcome to the Podcast. We hope you survive the experience. I'm Pete.
I'm Mike, and here we are actually in full Technicolor.
In Mike's lovely basement with his worrying number of X-Men comics behind us.
I'm not too worried about it. Anyway, today we have X-Men 129, which is, as Pete was saying to me earlier, one of the 100 of issues that changed the X-Men forever.
It's major. So what we have here is we have the first appearance of Kitty Pryde.
Yep, first appearance of Emma Frost.
And like this and this is the issue where we learn what the heck the Hellfire Club is, instead of just having Jason Leland sitting there going, "The Hellfire Club shall get involved."
And the Hellfire Club gets involved. This is also considered the first part of the Dark Phoenix Saga, which is one of the more significant runs of X-Men.
We just finished up the Proto Saga last episode. This is the Dark Phoenix, and then we're going to have Days of the Future Past, which are like the big trilogy of Byrne Claremont works.
Oh yeah, and all of them excellent. Dark Phoenix tends to get a lot of the hype, and so we're going to crack this open and see what that hype is about. Mm-hmm. And we also have here Kitty Pryde, who is kind of a reader insert character, meaning that they added her to the group to be a teenager, like they expected most readers to be, and to just basically ask questions that their readers might be curious about and do things that their readers might be curious about.
See, Mike's lucky because he was reading these at the time they came out. I was about 10 years behind him, so that means I got Jubilee.
Jubilee's kind of the discount. She's the
She's
the Kitty Pryde you got on Wish.com.
Exactly.
We have Kitty Pryde at home, Pete.
Harsh, but true. So we start off this issue immediately after where we ended the last issue with having with Colossus having destroyed Proteus. The X-Men are all gathered at the Muir Island facility. Everyone's saying their goodbyes. Sean is talking about how he's going to stay with his sweet Moira.
And immediately, Skyclops' reaction is, "All right, so who wants to join?"
Well, hey. I'm not leaving. I'm leaving the same number of X-Men that I came with. So, Alex, my brother, do you want to be an X-Man?
No.
Jimmy Matrix, do you want to be an X-Man?
No.
Lorna Dane, do you want to be an X-Lady?
No.
No one said yes.
Like going to ask Moira, but she's not a mutant, and always will never be a mutant.
We will both be long dead before we have to get to that storyline. There's a thing that will happen. Well, with X-Men, there's always a thing that will happen later.
Yeah, it's a thing I particularly hate, so it gets brought up occasionally. Yeah. But let's move on with what the actual story is.
At this point, Moira has the power of gun, and we're going to be spending the rest of this issue in Chicago.
Gun
might not have been the worst power to have.
Pretty good power to have in Chicago. So the X-Men get on their Blackbird, heading across the Atlantic to go back to New York first. And it just so happens that the exact same time, in the exact same area that they're flying over the ocean... They're
flying right over Mastermind's plane.
Yeah, which looks shockingly similar, except for the inside of Jason Wingard's plane is looking like the 18th century mindscape that he's been bringing Jean Grey into.
Yeah.
He's a man who's committed to his bit here.
Yeah. And I'm just going to point out that this panel has the most... Because things that annoy Mike get mentioned here, things that annoy Pete also get mentioned here. That means that this is the first appearance of Tessa, the X-Men character, the X-Men character who will be revealed in 30 years to have been a deep cover agent for Charles Xavier since before X-Men issue number 1.
Yeah, I really love that plot, and I think that we should... No, I hate that plot. Let's move right on.
We'll get to that in 20 years.
So Jason Wingard does what he's been doing and tries to drag Jean Grey into a 18th century flashback. This appropriately is them going across the Atlantic in the 18th century, but of course they're going on a ship. And on the ship, Jean Grey is actually kind of weirded out by it this time. The other time she just kind of like went with it. This time she very much
There is something wrong here. I don't know what it is, but it is here, and it is wrong.
And so she walks outside, gets some air. Jason Wingard offers to follow her. She is like, no, thank you. I want to be alone. So she goes outside and breathes the night air and wonders what's going on. And the ship captain comes to talk to her. But it's not the ship captain. It's actually Cyclops.
So the thing I like about this is I know that these flashbacks are all about Jason and Jean, but there's always somebody who looks just like Cyclops in them. I think Cyclops has had like 4 or 5 different roles in these flashbacks.
Well, and he will continue to have roles in these flashbacks because he is pretty much the most important person in Jean Grey's life, except for Jason Wingard, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Jean Grey says to Scott, hey, maybe we should talk. Or Scott says to Jean, maybe we should talk. And she's like, oh, about you making out with Colleen Wing? I don't care.
Very awkward. Listen, babe. I thought you were dead. You thought I was dead.
And she's just like, I don't care. And Scott's like, oh, me and Colleen are just friends. Friends who give each other their apartment keys and tell each other to drop by any old time.
Given Scott, he might genuinely believe that. Scott might just be like, well, she just wanted me to have her in case she goes on a mission with Misty Knight and needs me to feed her goldfish.
Or to like get her mail or something like that. I can see Scott going and getting her mail, but at the same time, that is Scott doing the other thing he does, which is critically misreading a situation. Scott is a genius when it comes to battle and doing things tactically, but when it comes to anything involving any kind of emotional depth, he is the stupidest member of the X-Men.
Like the fact that he starts making out with his girlfriend in front of his teammates. At least it doesn't actually show that, but they're on a relatively small plane with 6 people on it.
Yeah. So the X-Men get back to New York, and Scott's like, someone is at the mansion, and it's going to be like possibly danger.
Let's get a fight. Last time this happened, it was Beast. The time before that, it was Warhawk. Yeah. Let's go on hot. And they do, we have Storm and Jean just going through the door. We got Wolverine, Nightcrawler, and Colossus right behind them, and then they were ready to attack Charles Xavier.
And they probably should.
Yeah. Charles is full into his I'm basically a villain mode in this era.
Yeah. If they killed Charles Xavier here,
so many problems would be missed.
We would have no Age of Apocalypse,
no Onslaught.
Yeah, I mean, this is a missed opportunity for the X-Men. And Cyclops is continuing to think this because he goes to talk to Charles about leading the X-Men because Charles has made Wolverine angry by making him do simulations in the Danger Room,
and giving him demerits for not stabbing things properly enough, respectfully enough. I don't know how you stab things wrong.
And so Scott tries to talk to Professor X and is like, hey, these X-Men are not like teenagers like me and Warren and Jean used to be. These guys all lived life and did things before they came here. So, we should give them the respect that deserves and let them do their own things to a degree, and then we'll work out as a team. And Professor X like, shut up.
It's just really just straight up disrespect. It is, you have not learned anything in the 20 issues I've been gone, or the 100 issues before that you spent learning how to lead people into battle. It's kind of amazing, really. If you told me that this is one of the many times he's been shapeshifted into and impersonated, I would believe you.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. We mentioned in a previous podcast that Chris Claremont said that one of the problems that he had with X-Men is that Professor Xavier was too good of a person and that having him around was difficult.
I don't know. Chris Claremont was reading different comics than us.
Yeah, because, I think that he intentionally makes Professor Xavier a giant jerk, as a character in this comic will one day say.
I do want to point out, I think this is where we start the next couple of issues. There's a mutant spotted in Chicago and in New York City, and I do want to point out that for some reason Walled Lake, Michigan, is just in bold print. It's just one of the cities that I live near Walled Lake. Walled Lake is not a place that I think of.
It's
very
been
often.
a major metropolis. I also think it's funny that Detroit is significantly north of Walled Lake. It actually
Saginaw?
is, in the Saginaw area.
So from Michigan, Detroit is here. On the map, it's up here.
And depending on where you consider the labels meaning to the cities, Cleveland and Pittsburgh are in weird spots too, because it looks like Pittsburgh.
Cleveland east of
Cleveland looks to be east of Pittsburgh, which
I don't think that's how maps work.
No, that's not how maps work. Anyway, John Byrne, not a cartographer.
Not a planologist, not a cartographer.
And so Professor X is like, oh, we're going to have to split up. Both of these mutants need to be addressed, and they both seem like they could be super powerful. And so he says, me and Colossus and Wolverine and Storm are going to go to Chicago, and you and your girlfriend can go hang out in New York City.
Well, I guess we then get the reveal that the Hellfire Club has been watching this entire conversation, and basically they have the camera. They have their camera right at eye level with Cyclops and Charles. It's very convenient.
Well, they say that this is what they paid Warhawk to do all the way back in X-Men 110.
Continuity.
And I like the fact that at the time that we reviewed that issue, we were like, we don't know what his secret master is or if they'll ever be revealed. Well, it's revealed. Mm-hmm. It is the Hellfire Club, and they have been spying on the X-Men because, unlike Alpha Flight, they
do their daily research.
They're doing some research. That was Alpha Flight's greatest weakness, is that they come up against the X-Men, they're like, it's Wolverine and some
we know
people.
Wolverine, and there's a guy, there's a fuzzy guy, and there's a chick with lightning, and that guy yells a lot. He has sonic screams. I mean, everyone has a sonic scream, technically speaking.
All screams are sonic, as you love to point out.
I do.
But anyway, so the Hellfire Club is spying on the X-Men, and Jason Wingard is reporting to a shadowed group of people. And it's kind of interesting here to me is that they have playing card suits in front of them, which the Hellfire Club generally in the comics sets himself up like like the
Black King, the White King,
and like the English version of the Hellfire Club has a red queen instead of a black queen.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, because in England,
red is red and black, and not black and white.
No, red and white, I believe it is.
Maybe.
Red is one of them.
I'm not a chessologist either.
We are not Bobby Fischer. So they're using playing card suits here for some reason, and Jason Wingard is basically saying, I'm going to make it so that Jean Grey becomes our Black Queen and makes the Hellfire Club super powerful because she's ridiculously powerful.
She's an angry god, and we can totally manipulate that, and nothing will go wrong.
So it's notable that there are like 3 people in Shadow plus Emma Frost, theoretically, and Jason Wingard is not, at this point, a member of the Inner Circle. Getting Jean Grey on their side is what he sees as his
initiation,
a job interview. Yeah. So he also points out that Sebastian Shaw, the leader of the Hellfire Club, is a wealthy industrialist. Emma Frost, also a wealthy industrialist. The Hellfire Club in general, wealthy industrialist, because it's based on an actual organization, which is full of debauchery and wealthy industrialists.
Yep. We also get our first appearance of Emma Frost on this page, and this is like the least sexualized Emma. It's Emma in a corset, underwear, and thigh-high boots. It's still like the least sexualized she's ever going to be.
Yeah, I mean, that corset actually goes from her bust all the way down to like her upper thighs. So it's not like the mini corsets that she eventually gets into, or the like
the actual load-bearing corset.
Yeah.
The X strap thing that she's going to have under Morrison.
Yeah, that requires a lot of spirit gum to stay on.
Spirit gum and prayers.
I think most of the prayers are that it doesn't stay on. But so here's Emma Frost, who is introduced as White Queen, and she is clearly subservient to Shaw in the Hellfire Club.
As you say, Mr. Shaw.
So, yeah. She later goes on to be a more interesting character and more of a leader of the Hellfire Club than Shaw. But
Emma Frost is one of the greatest monsters in comics. She's amazing. I love reading her. She makes you want to sit around in white silk pajamas and dramatically drink white wine. She's also the worst.
She is a terrible human being. And we will see some of that in this. And I like that in more recent X-Men issues now, she sometimes like lectures the X-Men on morality, and they're all like,
"What?" Famously, in Joss Whedon's first issue of Astonishing X-Men, she's like, "Hey, Kitty Pryde, I'm really not the being a good person doesn't come naturally to me. Can you tell me if I'm ever risking going back to my old if I'm ever risking going back to being a bad guy?" And Kitty just kind of looks at her and goes, "You're Emma Frost. You're the bad guy." That's 1-to-1 in my head.
It is kind of one of the more interesting villains that join the X-Men, which, I mean, there's many of them over time. Yeah. Starts with Mimic, and then
Magneto, Sabretooth, Emma,
Mystique, Juggernaut, Rogue.
Yep.
But all of those characters have some underlying morality that makes you think that they could be heroic in the right situations. Emma Frost, not so much.
Emma Frost, basically, she's just like, I'm done being a bad guy now. Did you come to love your fellow man and understand how important it is that mutants and humans have coexist? No, I'm just done being a bad guy.
I just need a change of scenery. I
kind of want to move into the mansion.
You guys got a cool place, and I get to try to seduce Cyclops while I'm here, because surely nothing bad will happen from that.
Emma makes choices. Whether it's blowing up a girl's horse or seducing Scott Summers, they're all bad choices. All of them, they're exclusively bad choices.
A lot of people make that later choice.
Yeah, a lot of people do but she's one of the few who actually manages to seduce him.
Right on, Jean Grey's great. But that's getting ahead of ourselves.
We'll get to that in 20 years.
So now we show the Chicago skyline to set the scene. The Claremont narrator mentions that maybe Chicago has the best pizza, and I like Chicago pizza.
I am from Detroit. I will live and die by my square slice.
You're wrong. Anyway, so here's Kitty Pryde.
What do you think, listener? Let's see that in the comments.
Anyway, Kitty Pryde is not in Chicago itself. She's in a suburb called Deerfield, and she's headed home after dance class. She is 13 and a half years old. This becomes important several times in the next several issues because it becomes creepy.
Yeah, it does. So what we learn that's less creepy is that Kitty has been suffering from just awful migraines for the last week or so. She had to cut dance class because she has a headache. She goes up to her room.
Her room is like a suite. It is a gigantic room. She has posters on the walls. I like the fact that she has a Kermit the Frog poster that is covered up by a poster
of Gene Simmons.
Simmons.
And then she just has this teddy bear. I swear I've seen this teddy bear in 1,000 issues of X-Men.
Yeah, it seems like a common teddy bear design for the X-Men. And Kitty Pryde just keeps saying, I'm 13 and a half.
And I'm dying.
There's just... half birthdays aren't a thing, except for if you're Kitty Pryde, apparently.
I don't know. It might have been a Kitty Pryde influence. For a long time, I did say I was this many years and a half.
All right, cool. Okay. So Kitty Pryde accidentally goes through the floor because her power is being able to move through solid objects at will. So she kind of passes out, has a headache, and finds herself sitting on the floor of the living room, and her mom and dad come in and basically say, "What are you doing on the floor?"
And with them is Emma Frost in a shirt, in a jacket, and a skirt.
That skirt is slit all the way up, like
all the way up
literally
to her
all
thigh.
the way up.
Yeah. It is.
So Emma Frost is leaving, and the X-Men are arriving. Colossus is pushing Professor X's chair. They're all in theoretically civilian clothes, but they almost seem weirder in their civilian clothes than they do in their uniforms.
It really shows us it shows how freaking massive Colossus is. He's just like there's Professor Xavier in his chair. There's Wolverine, who's 5'3". Storm is 5.5 feet tall or whatever. You have Cyclops hunched over, still taller than Storm, pushing Xavier's chair like a tiny toy.
So they walk past Emma Frost, who was expecting the X-Men to show up. Does not make any conversation with them because she's cooler than them.
Mm-hmm.
The X-Men come to talk to Kitty's parents. Professor X, despite being in a wheelchair and everything being steps, makes his way into the lobby without any incident. Mm-hmm. Probably Colossus just one hand grabs him and sets him down.
Yeah. Kitty's mom suggests that while they're talking to the professor, she should go get ice cream with the X-Men, and she does just that. And we see Kitty and Storm are gonna have a famous friendship, throughout the comics. This is the first step of that. It's basically Kitty just gushing over how beautiful Storm is, which is also something a lot of people will do. As the series
but notably, she's like, "Hey, you don't look like black people I know. You have blue eyes," and like most people would not say this in a
Kitty Pryde does not have a filter. This is something else that will be proven over the next 20 years or so.
Yep. And also, she's asking questions that people are thinking. And meanwhile, in the background, Wolverine is checking out Penthouse and
he's
Hustler.
Just looking at porn. He's that guy who there's porn at the bookstore. I'm gonna look at the porn. What are you parents and shop owners looking at?
And the shop owner's like, "Hey, this isn't a library. You gotta buy it if you want to look at it."
And Wolverine's about to gut him like a fish.
When, thankfully for the X-Men's lawyers, the Hellfire Club
Mandroids, discount Mandroids. This goes a lot better for Colossus than it did last time.
Yeah, the X-Men quickly realize that each of the Mandroids is specifically designed to counter their powers.
Yeah.
So they just switch up and...
So there's an anti-Colossus one, an anti-Storm one, an anti-Wolverine one, and they just switch up dance partners and make very quick work of them.
And meanwhile, Kitty Pryde, trying to back away from the melee, ends up sending herself and her giant bell bottoms through the back wall of the
malt shop.
The X-Men are congratulating themselves on being awesome, when all of a sudden they're all hit by a giant psychic blast by the White Queen, who just comes in and
she has had time to take off her school marm uniform and to put back on the corset and it's the boots. I think the boots must have taken like a half hour to get into.
Oh yeah, and she definitely wasn't wearing those boots before because we could see
a lot.
So she takes them outside to her waiting hovercraft, which certainly would not draw any attention to anybody.
No, it is. So it's clearly a hovercraft. It looks like a space age hovercraft that's just going down one of the boulevards of Chicago.
And it mentions that they're taking us on back roads to avoid detection, but I mean, it's Chicago.
B, it's 1979.
This is sticking out like a sore thumb, despite Emma's best efforts to be like, "Oh, let's be sneaky." It also has a giant logo on the front of it of a H with a pitchfork through it, so that they're not subtle at all.
Yeah, it's
And she also blows up the guys who failed to capture the X-Men.
And then Emma, and it's something that Emma will do plenty of times off camera. She has the X-Men sedated and undressed.
And she mentions that they're aware that Storm has lockpicks in her headdress, and she tells the people to make sure that she's not got any other surprises in store.
God bless her that she did her research. James McDonald Hudson, I hope I know you're not taking notes because you're James McDonald Hudson and you don't take notes.
And you didn't bother surveilling whatever the hell is going on here. It looks like the Hellfire Guards are neatly folding the X-Men's uniforms
nice
for them. Yeah. And so the goons are like, what about the girl? And Emmett's like, we always wanted the X-Men. Yeah. We know where she lives because I was at her house. Her parents seem to want to take her to Massachusetts Academy where we can just program her to do whatever we want.
But it turns out that Kitty Pryde is in the cargo area section of the hovercraft.
Of the stealthy, sneaky hovercraft. And she is thinking, I gotta do something to save the X-Men, but what am I going to do? I'm all alone. Emma Frost is super powerful. I saw her take out all of the X-Men at once.
And then there's 4 more guards here.
And they have guns. And like Proteus, I am weak to gunshots.
Best weakness ever.
Although I think actually Kitty Pryde might be less weak to gunshots because she could probably phase the... But I don't think that she wants to test it now.
Yeah. Kids, never just assume that you're weak to gunfire. This has been your welcome to the podcast.
PSA for today.
Just assume that.
I mean, I think that it's better than not assuming that. And the stinger for next issue says that we have the debut of the Dazzler. Dazzler, we're going to talk about a lot next issue, obviously. But she is a somewhat controversial character because she shows up as a disco queen at the end of 1979. Well
after Disco's been dead.
Yep.
So there's a lot of setup. There's a lot of pivotal characters included in this issue. Not a whole lot necessarily happens, but that is to be these next 12 issues or so. Is they're all going to kind of just cascade into one another.
Yeah, it's kind of funny that we get a fight sequence on the cover, and that fight sequence did happen in the comic, but that fight sequence was like 2 pages.
Yeah, it is probably the shortest fight sequence we've had so far.
And everything else is the rest of the comic. Yeah. And it sets everything up. We have the X-Men captured by Emma Frost. We have unknown things happening in New York City. Hopefully Cyclops and Phoenix are more successful.
I sure hope no one dies next issue.
Anyway, so that's X-Men 129. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, I'm Pete.
I'm Mike.
We're glad you survived the experience.